Hey, Kingdom Wife Mom Boss. You are with us for another episode of the Kingdom Wife Mom Boss podcast. And I am here today with Ashlee Record. Let me tell y'all. So, we recorded an episode previously, and on the episode, for some reason, like that whole week, my Wi Fi was acting so strange. And I talked to another lady in my neighborhood, and she said it was her Wi Fi as well. So Ashlee was so generous to come back on and record another episode for me because I didn't want to air that episode. That episode sounded absolutely horrible. So Ashlee, thank you so much for joining me again for your episode of Teen the Wife Mom Boss. How are you doing today?
I am great. Thank you for having me again. I get it. Listen, tech be teching, and that's okay. We are pressing our way, so I'm glad to be back.
Awesome, awesome. So Ashlee Record, what coach do you call yourself? I don't think we talked about that on the last. Listen, Ashley, I really hope you don't mind, and I hope you are game for this. I don't want to. I'm still gonna release some of your reels from the previous conversation because you gave so many good nuggets. Like I don't want that to go to waste. But I know on that episode we were talking about harmony as a Kingdom Wife Mom Boss, but I feel like we can talk about so much more just because you have so much to you. So we're gonna let Holy Spirit guide this podcast. If we rediscuss some things, then great. But I want to talk about so many other things. So tell us what kind of coach you are, and let's see where we go from here.
Amen. Honestly, Kamisha, that is always a struggle question for me because I do a myriad of things by God's grace. I would say in general, I'm a business strategist for Christian women entrepreneurs, but I also work with clients on their mindset. I have also started working with corporate clients on their leadership development, serving corporate leaders like supervisors, managers, C-suite executives, making sure that they are not just skilled at what they do, but also skilled in how they manage God's people who are underneath their leadership. And so I am just a vessel for God's glory in whatever capacity He sees fit. And right now, it's really kind of those three areas. Of course, in addition to what I do with the assigned as their visionary commander.
Awesome. You know what? That is no wonder that's a struggle for you because you don't have one answer. You have multiple answers, which I absolutely love. Epitome of Kingdom Wife Mom Boss. I absolutely love that. But there's something that, first of all, you just celebrated a birthday. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
How was it? What did you guys do?
Really didn't do too much. We went to a new restaurant. That was really good just to try something different with my husband and I. And then the rest was just kind of self-care. I got a much needed alone time, getting a pedicure and just like I think I spent most of my birthday honestly in tears because I found myself in just like a deep place of reflection and gratitude. I don't know what it was about 35 or maybe it's 2025, but something on January 24th this year just brought me to a place of like, my God, I am so thankful. Looking back over the last 10 years of my life, 5 years, 5 months, all the different things that God has been able to do to, through, and for me for his glory. I just am like, I'm grateful. So my birthday was very emotional, but in a good way. And yeah, I'm looking forward to what else God has in store for this year.
That is absolutely amazing. I'm gonna tell you, I was having a conversation with my cousin, and I couldn't remember if it was my 30th birthday or my 35th birthday. I'm
Hmm.
trying to think. I don't know. It was either a 5 year thing or a 10 year thing. And she was like, every however many years, I want to say it was 10. I really want to say it was 10. Every 10 years, you get to this place where you change. And you are like the things that you used to do, you don't really want to tolerate those things anymore. Like you want to see a completely brand new look and a completely brand new aspect. And she was like, you're gonna start cutting people off. And I was like, girl, don't tell me that. Don't tell me that because especially back then, I was the cut off queen.
Mm.
Like I
Okay.
remember one day walking by an ex-boyfriend, like I didn't even know girl, I just I kept walking. I ain't know who you was. I ain't even, and I didn't even have like any grudge against him. It was just like, you're an old season and I'm just gonna go. So I think that is beautiful at your birthday, your 35th birthday, you were able to reflect on growth and how much you've been through. I think that is amazing and definitely beautiful that it brought you to tears because I know that in that moment you were probably like, God has been so amazing. Look where he brought me.
Yes, yes, amen. Absolutely.
So you posted something. You said, you know what, before we get into that, girl, tell me a little bit about yourself, your marriage, your kids, your family, where you live. On the last episode, we talked a little bit about your church because you love your church so much, and I could hear the passion in your voice of what you were talking about your church. So just tell us a little bit about you.
Yes, absolutely. So my family, we are originally from Illinois and we moved to Georgia in 2021. And we live in Grayson, Georgia. It's a smaller city in Georgia, and I'm maybe like 45 minutes from Atlanta. But it's my husband. My husband and I have been married for 7 years. We have three kids in our home, Christian, Naomi, and Gabriel. Christian is 8. Gabriel is going to be 16 this month. I still cannot believe I'm about to have a 16-year-old. Like, what in the world? And then Naomi is 6. And then our oldest son, he lives with his mom currently, and he's going to be 21 this year. So that's really exciting too. And the church, so we attend the Faith Center in Tucker, Georgia. It's probably like 30 minutes from where we live. We found our church through, a Facebook group that I'm a part of for our area. And as soon as, I heard my pastor speaking, I was like, yep, this is where we're supposed to be. So we faithfully, like ever since the first day we went, I can probably count on one hand the number of times that we've missed. Like and I'm grateful to God for the family dynamic that we have because for whatever reason God sees fit, like we don't have children that we have to persuade to get up on Sunday mornings. Most of the time, our kids are counting down for church Friday night. So it's like, I know today is Friday, which means tomorrow Saturday, which means we have one more day before we get to church on Sunday. Like, and it's all the way up to Gabriel, who is about to be 16. Like everybody loves the Faith Center. My husband, of course, I do. And so I'm very grateful for that. As a family, we try to get out as much as we can, but sometimes our family time really just looks like gathering together around a family movie, and just spending time together in that capacity. And yeah, that's pretty much what it looks like for us.
That's beautiful. I absolutely love to hear that. Okay, so you talked about the Faith Center, and there was something that we talked about on the previous podcast that I don't want to miss, and maybe we'll get to a little later. But we were talking about date night and what that looked for you guys, and how um just tell us a little bit about your dating your spouse or dating within your ability to date.
Yeah, so it's so funny you mentioned that because I was just talking to Julian about it on Friday. We went out and we went to a new restaurant, just the two of us, but it was when the kids were in school. And so I told him, I was like, this is a date. Like, just because it's not nighttime, it doesn't mean it doesn't count as a date. And technically, we go on dates almost every week because the kids are at school and Julian's off work, usually like a Friday or a Monday, he might be off. And so we utilize that time, kind of strategically to just go out to breakfast, go out to lunch. Maybe we'll run some errands together. But it's like we are very intentional about finding pockets because we don't have the kind of system set up locally here in Georgia where we can like drop our kids off and be like, watch our kids while we go. Nope, I don't have, my mom lives here. So it's not like, oh, she doesn't have any family. Nope, my mom lives here, but she's just not that kind of mom, and that's okay. So we appreciate that we are able to still find time for each other. So sometimes it might just be watching a movie together while the kids are napping or while they're upstairs. Sometimes like once they go down for their sleep, like for the night, there have been a couple of times where Julian's just like, get in the car, let's go get some ice cream, and we just optimize time together like that. But really for our marriage, it is a lot of finding and being intentional about making time as opposed to like the more traditional, oh, my husband and I have a date night once a month or whatever. Like, nope, we don't have a traditional anything going on over here when it comes to that.
Man, absolutely. And I just didn't want to miss that because I think some people look at date night as we got to do this on this night and we like they kind of make it militant. And me and my husband actually were trying to have like a series of date nights last year at the end of the year, but his work schedule got absolutely ridiculous. And I felt like at that point it was unfair. Like it was disingenuine for me to say, yeah, we're going to keep going on these date nights because he was obviously exhausted. And so just being intentional about the time that we spent together, even like pillow talking conversation, it is about the intimacy of the relationship and not necessarily the date night. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. But listen, you recently posted that you just spent time with God mapping out your next 90. And I was like, what did that look like? Tell
Man,
us a little bit more about that, especially as a strategist. Just give us a little bit of gems and nuggets on how we people, I mean, not even people who have business, but just family and ministry and all of those things. I feel like this is something that we should all make sure that we sit down and sit with God to see what his plans for us are in the upcoming months. And so I was like, Ashley got to tell us about that one, girl. Tell me about it.
hey man, I love that. That is such a good question. This is my first time being able to talk about it outside of the assigned. So I have to shout out first my partner per se. She's one of the trainers in the assigned, but she is also very much so my personal like business bestie, life bestie. I love her to life. Her name is Tashana Burrell, and she is a prophetic voice for the assigned, a relationship trainer. She's also a minister. I mean, I love Tashana. She leads a movement called Girl Possess It. And so Tashana and I were having a kind of like a friend back and forth DM conversation one day. And I was telling her about different things that I was looking to accomplish with God in, I think it was 2025, or maybe it was in the next couple of months, but we had this conversation last year either way. And so when I was talking to her, Tashana was like, oh, girl, you need to have a CEO meeting with God. And I was like, a CEO meeting? What do you mean? And so she just begins to break down this whole process of how to like intentionally meet with God as his client, as opposed to meeting with like my clients, where I'm the strategist, going before God the same way that my clients come to me. My clients always start off, whenever I have a strategy session, they always start off with a question. Like, I want to know how do I create better messaging? How do I create a better offer? How do I get more sales utilizing this type of content? And so start off with, of course, prayer and supplication, and then ask a question, write the question down after you have set the atmosphere with prayer. If you need worship music, play the music. And then from there, whatever the question is, when it comes to your business, like, God, what does the next 90 days look like as far as what you want me to focus on? God, I'm thinking about launching this particular offer, but I'm not really sure if this is your will. And if it is your will, what does the launch look like? And then kind of be quiet and see what God reveals to you in that quiet time. And I think because we are so used to like serving and serving and serving and serving, sometimes sitting is the hardest thing to do. But my God, last week when I sat still and I just listened. I didn't allow anyone to book an appointment with me. I had my calendar blocked off. I was very intentional. Like, God, this time, this space, this day is for me to meet with you and get your plan for my business. I wish I would have recorded the process because, like, so I have this big, huge calendar for all 12 months on my wall. And from like the first couple of minutes, it was kind of quiet. I didn't really hear anything. I wasn't really clear. And then after maybe like 3 or 4 minutes of just sitting and listening to worship, the downloads started coming. Ashlee, first, I need you to do this. Ashlee, I need you to do that. And so I got up with my expo marker. I went over to my calendar and I started penciling things in. And I just felt like a mad scientist almost, like just writing all these things, all like like everything that he was showing me by way of Holy Spirit, I was like copying it down and capturing out the launch strategy. And like I'm amazed. It was just a few days ago, but I'm just grateful to God for that clarity. But absolutely that framework came from Tashana, and then I encouraged her to turn this into a master class. I don't know if she set that up yet, but she did teach it to the assigned. And the ladies were blown away. And so when it comes to the intentionality, just really quickly, it's actually a day that you set with God every single month. So for me, it's the 28th of every month I've blocked off. And that is my day for my business meeting with God. So because I got the plan for the next 90 days, January 28th, when I meet with him this month, I think we have 28 days. If not the 27th, it's all right, flexible but committed. But when I meet with him this month, I'll be figuring out if there are any changes I need to make for that 90-day plan. If there's anything that he wants me to do immediately, like, God, what about the next 30 days? What do you want me to do tomorrow? What do you want me to do next week? Those types of questions. But it's very intentional. This is not just a normal Bible study time. This is not just a normal worship session. This is you asking God very specific questions and getting the strategy from him for your business.
I'm processing.
Yes, take your time.
Because wait, man, hold on, wait. Okay, so here, listen. Okay, wait. Processing for real because okay, I don't know if you've ever heard me say this, but I used to say it all the time. I haven't really been saying it a whole lot, but when God first had me walking into writing a book and starting business and stuff like that, like I sat on the couch one night and I was just overwhelmed.
Hmm.
First of all, being a Kingdom Wife Mom Boss is not for the faint of hearts.
Oh,
You have a lot going on. And this was really my first time walking this journey and writing a book and all of this stuff. And I was like, God, this is a lot. But I don't think that you gave it to me so that I could fail. Like
come on.
it don't agree with who you are. Like you are a guy. You didn't give it to me so I can fail. I said, here's my planner. Like I handed God my planner and I say, you're gonna have to tell me how to do this on a day-to-day basis because I'm struggling. And man, I feel like it was in that moment where I really, really, really realized how much God cares, even about the little things.
Yes.
Because the next morning he gave me order, go go wash these clothes, go wash these dishes, go do this and go do that. And that might seem so little to someone, but for me that was so big because I was trying to balance maintaining a household, being a wife. I've even been in prayer. I don't even know if you heard this on the last podcast. I've been in prayer and prostrating on my face, and God said, "That's enough. Go get in the bed with your husband." Like God, I was like, "Wait, what?" God cares about all of those details. Like everything that He has assigned to you, He actually really cares about it. And so that was mind blowing for me, what you just said. Every single month, you have a CEO meeting with God to, hey, God, this is your business. This
Yes.
is your company. These are your kids. This is the husband that you gave me, but this marriage is yours. This business is yours. This book is yours. This, like everything is yours. How do you want me to run it?
Mhm.
And so, mhm, mhm. I'm gonna have to write that one in. I have to do that. To me, I feel like that was such a golden gem for anybody listening who is having a hard time maintaining, or you haven't been incredibly intentional about checking in with God about what it is that you're supposed to be doing with His business. And I'm gonna say I do it, but to like just sit down and intentionally, like every single month, do it. I do it. Oh, I'm about to tell on myself. I do it when I feel like, okay, God, what now? Like, what do
Yes.
you want me to do now?
Yep.
And I think sometimes in those moments, it's kind of like, okay, I'm feeling a little lost, and I want you to direct me on how to get back to the back path on the right path. But from what you just said to me, it's like God has given me the blueprint for the next 90 days, and I'm not going to have to really ask him what's next. I'm going to operate off of this blueprint and I'm going to build what it is that he has instructed me to build in these 90 days. And I think that is amazing. But hey, you talked about the assign, and I don't know this answer, so let me know. I know you have a Facebook group, the assign Facebook group, because I'm in it. But how do people get in it? Do they have to go through like a certain session? Do they have to go through like a certain training, or can they just sign up to be in the Facebook group?
Yes, absolutely. So this, okay, so let's back up a little. So the Facebook group, Christian Women Assigned to Millions in the Marketplace, that is for anybody. That is for Christian women who are on assignment in the marketplace. They know like God sent me to impact, to earn, and to steward millions. So in that group, we are building community intentionally. We're kind of new, so I think we're at like 600 members right now. Glory be to God, but we have big goals. My goal is to be at 10,000, intentionally filling the group with Christian women entrepreneurs on assignment. That's the Facebook community where we share resources. Sometimes we might have some events. I know we have actually an event coming up this month that I haven't announced yet. And that group is like a hub for our ecosystem of Christian women entrepreneurs who are on assignment in the marketplace. But then you have the assigned. The assigned is the membership organization for God's business women. So Christian women entrepreneurs come to the assigned experience. It happens every year in November. And that is a live event. It was 3 days last year. This year it'll be 4 days. And through the assigned experience, they go through a series of trainings and they graduate as members of the assigned. As members of the assigned, they work with us for 90 days inside of the assigned inner circle, which is where Tashana did the God is my CEO training. She did that last month. And after the 90 days, they can continue to be a part of the inner circle for the business development piece, but they are lifetime members of the assigned. So it's kind of different pieces to the same puzzle. So anybody can join the Facebook group, given that you are a Christian woman entrepreneur on assignment in the marketplace, and you know that your assignment is to impact, earn, and steward millions. If you would like to become a member of our organization, The Assigned, you do have to go through the assigned experience. You would have to enroll as a trainee. We train you for those 4 days, and then you graduate on the fourth day as a member of The Assigned.
All right, awesome. Y'all please join the Facebook group because she be dropping gems in the Facebook group. I'd be like, whew, okay,
Uh,
girl. So, I mean, the poor is good even in Facebook group. And I don't, do you want to tell us a little bit more about the assign, how it came to you, how God spoke it to you? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Absolutely, absolutely. So the assigned started last year, and it kind of was a very, I'm sitting at your feet, Lord, what do you want me to do type of process. I got a DM on February 18th of last year, and the woman who messaged me, one of my Facebook friends, basically said, God told me to tell you that you're supposed to host a live event this year for Christian women entrepreneurs. This is not going to be a business event. It's not going to be like anything the world has ever seen before. And it's time for you to gather his daughters. And then she kind of explained why God told me to do it, why he chose me. And that was pretty much it. And as soon as I received that message, I thanked her, but I was like, this is crazy because a few years ago, 7 years to be exact, God gave me instruction for a live event, or should I say, a vision of a live event. And so I moved in obedience to that vision, and only one woman registered for that event. So I was like, Lord, as much as I've kind of been seeing different things, like feeling an unction in the spirit over the last couple of years to try again, try again, try again, I honestly had not been too committed to it because it was such an epic public failure back in 2017. And it was embarrassing. I was confused. I felt like maybe I can't really hear from God. So when I got this DM, as much as I appreciated it, it was almost like, no thanks. But God kind of reminded me of like Jonah and being in the belly of the whale. Like there were so many moments where God was disrupting my environment, sending me other prophets, one after the other, to my DMs to let me know, like, Ashlee, God said, Ashlee, God said. And I'm like, oh my goodness, okay. So I just finally came into agreement. And at the time, I didn't know what it was going to be called. I went through so many different names for this event because that's what I thought it was supposed to be. So it was like Kingdom Women in Business Conference, Kingdom Women in Business Connection. Like, I think I even tried to call it the Aligned Experience or something. I had so many different things that I was thinking. And I had like a small container of close friends and my husband too. And I was like, what about this name? I don't know. What about this name? No, definitely not that. What about, and we went through, and then finally I sat still. And I was like, all right, Lord, what is this? Like, what is this that you've called me to do? And so through that time of just sitting and seeking, I got the assign. These are Christian women entrepreneurs who are different from like one of my friends who has a paparazzi business because she just likes to sell jewelry, but she's not assigned to disrupt the jewelry industry for God's glory. She's not assigned to be a leader in that industry. And so as I was sitting at his feet, I got, they are the assigned, and this is the assigned experience. And I was like, well, what is that? And then the vision started coming of soldiers. And then I started hearing the boots marching. And I started seeing like Ashlee, the same way that you have been consistently talking about the standard that we are supposed to operate in the marketplace as Christian women entrepreneurs is the same way that you are going to help me establish that standard for these women. There is an order to entrepreneurship, just like there's an order to every area of our life. There's an order for marriage, there's an order for motherhood, there's an order for womanhood, so on and so forth. There's also an order for business. And I think because there have not been enough voices rising up for like kingdom business and the way that we're supposed to operate in the kingdom as entrepreneurs, there have been a lot of people mismanaging kingdom in the marketplace. And I've always been an advocate of, like, nope, we're not doing that. That's not how you handle this. It doesn't matter if you had a bad experience with a client or customer, don't post about them. Just things that we don't necessarily pay attention to because the world does it. But it's like the Bible says we're in, but not of. And so with the assigned, as I continue to build my very first multi-day live event last year, more and more clarity came that this was not going to be a regular type of event. And when I tell you November 7th through the 9th, 2024 will forever be ingrained into my heart, mind, and spirit because of what God did, how Holy Spirit showed up, the impact, the transformations. And we did not just have one woman, we had 17. Glory be to God. 17 members of our inaugural cohort of the assigned. And it was totally, blind faith, bold obedience, consistently following the voice of God through everything. It was not an immediate return on my faith investment because I do believe that faith is a seed that we first have to sow in obedience to what God tells us to do. And I did not see an immediate ROI. I finally came into agreement maybe like February, by like February 22nd, I'll say I was finally like, all right, Father, you sent enough prophets. I got it. I got it. I got it. Right. Like, okay, Father. So between February 22nd and August, we didn't have anybody enrolling into the assigned experience. But I had to keep marketing and I had to keep declaring and I had to keep talking about the vision and I had to keep speaking what I didn't see and I had to keep building and keep pressing and keep praying. And like there was an endurance process, a perseverance process that was very much so a part of my journey. But I do believe it was necessary because not only did it build my faith, but it also built the faith of everybody connected to me. I received so many messages, DMs, Ashlee, thank you. Ashlee, keep going. People messaged me prayers. People sold into the assigned experience. Like it was incredible. And I'm just excited for what God is going to continue to do. This year will be our second year, and I'm looking forward to all of the women we'll be able to serve next.
And that's beautiful. And I remember sending you a message. I have no clue what that message said, but in all, I know it said like, I see your faith through
Amen.
this, like pushing through this. And I just felt like it was blessing me to never give up on what it is that God said, even when it doesn't look like what God said it does. And so I know if it was blessing me, then it had to be blessing so many other women. And so I thank you so much for your faith obedience because I seen you push, girl. And I feel like it's not something that you necessarily like out of your flesh wanted to do, but it was something out of your obedience
Yes.
said, no, no, ma'am. But it was something out of your obedience and your reverence for God where you were like, you know what, God, this is yours and I can't drop the ball on it. So I'm gonna have to die to flesh and do what it is that you told me to do. I think that is absolutely amazing. And so I have a prophetic mentor and her name is Miranda Higgins. And baby, Miranda Higgins is all about Prophetess Miranda, is all about sitting still. And that was so hard for me. I've been working on it over however many years, but just sitting still and waiting on God to respond. Baby, every distraction you can think of come to your mind. You
Yeah.
forgot to write somebody back. You got to do this. You got to do that. You got to, like, every distraction you can think of will come to your mind. But there is so much amazing, so many amazing things. I mean, being able to sit still is a gem when you sit still long enough for God to respond to the prayer. And in your prayer, you do not have to constantly talk. I have no clue why I'm talking about this. But anyways, in your prayer, you do not have to constantly talk and talk and talk and speak. Sometimes you can go before God and just say, God, what I'm just gonna sit here until you speak to me and tell me what you need from me today. And I think that once we learn how to do that, it definitely that's why I'm just thinking about that with your CEO business. I'm like,
Oh,
literally, all you got to do is go before God and sit there. Hey, God, hey, what do you want me to do with your business? And He is going to like give you such a download. I know I can't even imagine what it was like when God was speaking to you and giving you that download. Man, I can't even remember it. But you said something, and I just wanted to touch on it for a second because I do not like petty marketplace ministry.
yeah.
Like it completely turns
Mhm.
me off from that person.
Yeah.
Like your character is not the character of someone that I would want to go to whenever I am needing help, even if it's in your niche. I don't even care if you have so much success in your niche. If you are petty,
Mhm.
I'm not coming. Like God gonna have to come to me himself. And he gonna
Okay.
that was something else you said too. Baby, God gonna give you a 1-2 punch. He gonna snatch you up real
Okay.
quick and
That's
he's
it.
going to keep on at it until you actually do what he tell you to do. But yeah, I marketplace ministry sometimes is a hot mess. Why are people so petty?
Yes, man, because they haven't been checked. Look, because they're not connected to me. Because I will call it out. I will let them. And I will say, nope, we don't do that. And I say it very respectfully. Like I'm never trying to hurt anybody in per se. Of course not. Like it's not about the person. It's about the spirit. But I do think that there are not enough conversations about the standard and the expectation and the distinction that is required, and so we have marketplace ministers who are talking about how to get to the money, how to get your clients, how to fulfill your purpose, how to grow your business, how to heal your marriage, all those different things. But we also need to talk about how to treat people when things don't go your way, how to respond when life is lifing and things are going left and right, and how to still manage your influence, how not to bleed all over God's people. Just because you have a platform does not mean that your trauma is supposed to be public. Like there are so many different things that we don't discuss that I believe that God has kind of charged me and entrusted me to discuss regularly because I genuinely love God's business women and I just want to see them flourish in obedience to Him. And I do think the more intentional that we are, the better we are able to evangelize unintentionally because people are watching, whether they admit it or not. Unbelievers are watching, backsliders are watching. people who are in the church and super religious and they're not operating in relationship are watching. And if you are not managing your influence well, you are leading God's people astray, and we will be held accountable for that. And so I just think having more conversations like this, creating more content like what I create, having more marketplace ministers being intentional about not just operating well, but also speaking in how we operate will help us help more people who are on assignment in the marketplace as well do business God's way.
Hey man, I entirely agree with that. Also, if you say you're a kingdom marketplace ministry, I'm really looking at that kingdom. Like that's what highlights to me is kingdom. And so I'm expecting for you to have a good relationship with Holy Spirit. And I know Holy Spirit done said to me a couple of times when I was getting ready to type out something, stop, that's not what we're doing in this season, right? And so if you are kingdom, you need to sit still, sit with God because He's going to reveal those things to you. You need to be intentional about going before God and asking Him those questions because I'm telling you, you can be mid message typing out what you want to put on your post, and God is like,
Delete
what you
it.
doing? Holy Spirit be like, yeah, what you doing? And I'd be like, it's not even. And he'd be like, no, we're not doing that today. Like that's how God talks to me. Like God checks me real hard. And so I don't know if you saw my post that I posted the other day. I thought back on something that I had to be healed from. And I was like, ooh, that's ugly. God, please don't let me talk about that. And he said immediately, whom the son sets free is free indeed. And I was like,
Hey,
okay,
there it is. Right. Mm.
I'm just like, okay, God, I'm sorry. But I do thank you for sharing that information about the assigned experience. I know that it was an amazing time for you. I saw the pictures, I saw the testimonies. It was so good, girl. You had to log out for the rest of the year. You
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Yes, ma'am. Amen.
But it was so good. But I do want to talk a little bit about operating harmoniously as a kingdom wife, mom, boss, because again, there's so many things on our plate, so many things that we have to juggle. And I think operating in harmony is something that helps us on a day-to-day basis. So not only how operating in harmony helps you thrive as a kingdom wife, mom, boss, but also how it helps your marriage and how you and your husband work together to make sure that y'all are thriving together in harmony so that the marriage part of Kingdom Wife Mom Boss does not drop.
Amen. That is such a good question. Listen, it's so good. Apparently, God wanted to make sure that I answered it in multiple spaces because I was on a panelist this past Saturday, and one of the women there, she said she and her husband, I think, had recently gotten married or had been married for 3 years, one of the two. And she was asking about balance. She's like, I'm a wife, I'm of course a woman, and then I'm also a mom, and I'm just trying to figure out how do I create balance? And literally, what you just talked about, that harmony piece, is what I told her. Balance does not exist. We create harmony. And the way that harmony works is you stop looking for equality. Equality says, I have to give like 50% of me to my business and then 50% of me to my marriage, or 25 to my business, 25 to my marriage, 25 to myself, and then 25 to my children. Like, no, that's not the case, because when you are working on your business, you are not working with your husband. You are not working with your children. You're not even focused on yourself. You're focused on serving. The same thing with your children, the same thing with your husband. And so you just have to be intentional. And communication is the biggest thing. Having those conversations, not even just with your husband, but also with your children, starting as early as they can understand, which for some babies, it might be one or two. Sitting down and having a conversation and saying, hey, mommy's going upstairs to work on this. And I want you to maybe come in here and watch your favorite show. I remember so many times where Naomi, before she was able to go to preschool, she would sit in the room with me while I was working on different projects, and she would be watching her little shows, knowing mommy's working. She has her snacks, she has her shows. Sometimes she had her tablet and her headphones, and it's just being very intentional and having those conversations and making sure that you are present in the moment. Yesterday, I think it was when I kind of caught myself, I was on my phone checking content, responding to comments, messaging people in the DMs. And we were driving to a new restaurant in a new place. Anytime we go somewhere new, my husband always loves to point out the houses. And so while I'm in my phone looking and responding and commenting, he's like, "Babe, did you see that house? Babe, did you see that house?" And it was like Holy Spirit's like, "Ashlee, like, do you hear him? Like he's trying to talk to you about where you are, but you're so focused on what you're doing." So again, not balance, harmony. I had to put my phone down and look around and engage with my husband. And I think just like that level of intention, like I said, awareness, had I not been paying attention, I would have missed the moment. I would have missed the opportunity to have that connection with him as we were driving to that new restaurant. And so I think, like, again, the communication, let's, are we going on a date? Are we going out to eat? Are we going to sit up with the children, this Friday? I know for us, we love to go to my mom's house. She has this huge mansion in Peachtree City, Georgia. And so we try to get out there as often as we can because we love her big house. And so this weekend, we've already said it. I think we said it 2 weeks ago that we would be going to my mom's house this weekend. So, like, again, the communication, the intentionality. When we get to mom's house, I'm not hosting any meetings. I'm not doing anything other than being present. And if I do have a meeting, I talk to everybody ahead of time and just make sure we're all on the same page. My husband and I, we talk consistently, like, what are we doing, what does that look like, and just making sure that we are operating in agreement and alignment together.
I love that. I love that. We're gonna have to talk about the difference between balance and harmony because I feel like you have to have both. Is that not?
See, I love the idea. It sounds so good. But when I think about balance, it requires equality on both sides. Like, if you like a seesaw, the only way that the seesaw is balanced, where it's a straight line, is if the kids, are at the same level and their weight is similar, or somebody's kind of pressing on it to make it balanced. But in general, if one kid's on there and one kid's not, that one kid's going to be down while the empty side is up. It's just how it works. Like, balance requires equality, and you cannot have equality because while you're focused on, like I was saying with my husband, I'm not with my kids. When I'm doing, like, Friday when we went to that restaurant at this private airport, nobody was thinking about Gabriel, Naomi, Christian. Like, God, keep them safe. We're present in this time together. I wasn't thinking about my business. I wasn't worried about even just like me personally. It was just me and him in that time. And so I think striving for balance almost puts too much pressure on us because it requires us to be mindful of multiple things at once, as opposed to just being fully present. So I mean, I have heard people talk about, balance this, balance that, but I believe balance does not exist if you are trying to fully immerse yourself in the moment, be present, all those things. You just need to create some harmony.
Listen, you just need to create some harmony. Listen. All right, Ashley, I guess I'm going to try looking at life from a different perspective of harmony instead of balance. I definitely get that. I get what you're saying. So I'm gonna try to look at life in a different perspective concerning that. And you said something so key in the episode that we will not be airing, but I'm gonna air some of those things. But you said something and it hit me as I was like re-listening to the video. You said don't ice your spouse out of the business because a lot of us have businesses that our spouse is not like they're not operating in, like it's not something for them. And I think I know, nothing, I know it is so easy to kind of like just cut them out of what it is that you're doing. And I know that that's a very important key in harmony, as we discussed it last time, because even if they're not doing anything, they still can do other things to help. My husband supports me in other ways. Like Listen, I told my husband that I was gonna start a podcast like 3 years ago. He bought me a mic 3 years ago. And I was
Oh,
like, it's just kind of been sitting there. I think he bought me a computer a couple of years ago. Like he does things in his own way to try to support me because he knows that like the business is not necessarily like directly pertaining to him. But I want you to kind of give us some examples because I personally know it's easy to just go forth with the business and not like really include the husband. Like I talk to my husband about stuff that I'm doing, but I don't necessarily include him in like certain ways or have the expectation of his inclusion in certain ways. And I want you to kind of talk to us about that a little bit.
yes, absolutely. So, just very practically, my husband has bought all sorts of things for my business. This chair, this beautiful pink chair I'm sitting in, he bought this for me 2 Christmases ago. I have a bookshelf over here. He just bought it for my birthday. Like he's just very just in that practical sense. But then from a planning problem, solution type of standpoint, I talk to him about everything. He is one of my best friends. And so when it comes to my business, I'm like, babe, I have hit a wall. I'm trying to figure it out. I don't know what to do. He will, of course, cover me in prayer. He will hear all of my ideas, all of the options that I feel like are available. And then he'll just kind of give me some advice. Now, he has not taken any business courses. He is in security. Like this is not necessarily his thing, but I guess over the years of us just, being married for 7 years, being together for 10 years, it's just kind of like I can weigh in and yes, like he's helped me. He was I think one of the first people to push me on my pricing. When I first started off as an entrepreneur, my 6 week program was like $400. And that was really just like it made so much sense to me. But to my husband, he was like, no, that doesn't make sense. So by the time we did the same program, maybe like the third or fourth time, he said, okay, it's time, to elevate the prices. And then so, he's always been the one to kind of push me to the next level or to push me through a challenge, to encourage me with the assigned experience. Every time I had a vision, he was the one I was sharing it with. I remember one morning I heard like the drums. Like there's this sound that I kept hearing with the assigned experience. It was like I heard the beat so clearly, and we're getting ready for church, and I just come out the bathroom. I'm like, babe, I hear these drums. I see them marching like boom, boom, boom. And I was just telling him, and he's like, yes, he's marching around the house with me. We didn't have any women enrolled yet, y'all. But like he was just believing God with me for the fulfillment of God's promise. Anytime like my faith starts to waver, because sometimes it does happen where I'm like, I know what God said, but I don't see it. And it's been so long. It's been so many days, so many hours, so many nights. My husband is like, I will stand in the gap in faith and remind you of the vision, remind you of the promise, remind you of the instruction. And so the partnership, like he's not the one helping me, serve my clients. He's not the one helping me create content or offers, but he is very much so intricate in my process. And I'm just grateful for that dynamic of our relationship.
I think that's so important. And we had a conversation. Listen, we've had a podcast on being the wife who intercedes, the intercessor wife. We've had a podcast on partners and what you just said, operating harmoniously. I think they all work together really to help the kingdom wife thrive in what it is that she's doing because you have a lot going on. A lot of the people seem to put things down and in process of writing a book, Lord, whenever it gets finished, it gets finished. But in that book, this is what I talked about. And I'm just gonna have a very transparent moment here. Back before I like started giving God my planner, my husband saw what I was doing, and the best way he felt like he could support me was to just like give me room to like write the book, give me space to do whatever. And I feel like I took a little bit of advantage of the space that he was giving me. And the reason why is because sometimes it can be stressful. Like life can be incredibly stressful. And so some places you just kind of want to like, I don't want to deal with that right now. And I feel like the easiest place to do that, honestly, is marriage.
Mm.
I feel like that's the easy. You can't do it with your kids because, girl, they're all over the place. Mommy, 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 mommy. Like, you can't do that with your kids. If you do it with your business, then your business is gonna fail. If you're like me, you have a full-time job, you're gonna have to go to work. Like you can't necessarily do it with work. And so the person who's going to be most understanding of the fact that you need space is your husband. And it's very easy to take advantage of the fact that you can get that space. And that was a lesson that I just kind of had to learn in that moment, is that I was taking advantage of his desire to see me succeed
Hmm.
by dropping the ball. I'm just gonna say dropping the ball in my marriage in that season, right? And so, what you just said, everything that you just shared about including your husband, and what Chantel talked about and being partners working together, and what Kenyon talked about and being an intercessor wife, like those things are so important. And being a kingdom wife, mom, boss, and making sure that you're thriving in all those avenues and all of those aspects of your marriage. I just kind of wanted to like share that. You agree with that?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, all right. It can be a little hard. It can be a little hard, girl, especially if you got these kids.
Yes, ma'am.
Can I just tell you, child, my 2-year-old is running this house.
Uh-oh.
I
Uh-oh.
can't get her. I've never had a child that would not sleep in their own bed. I can't get her out of my bed. When I
That
look over at my husband, it's a 2-year-old sitting in the middle of us with the cover up to her neck, and she's looking back and forth in such
is
excitement, like she feel
laughing.
like she's
Right.
supposed to be there.
Yes,
And I'm
ma'am.
like, girl, you ain't supposed to be here. Get out of my bed. So listen, me and my husband are working on ways to get her out of our bed. If y'all got some tips, because I have 4 kids. This is my 4th child. I've never experienced this in my entire life. If y'all got some tips, go ahead and share them. We are open for suggestions because I can't get this girl out of my bed. Like
That is so funny. I love it. I love it. Is
I
she your
can't
only
get this girl.
daughter?
Huh?
Your only daughter?
No, my oldest is a girl. Don't make girl listen, because she's a senior this year. She's about to graduate in a couple of months. And
Oh,
she wants to go away to school, and I'm like, you're my sanity.
oh wow. Wow. Go away to
And
school.
so my oldest is a girl, and then my 2 middle are boys, and then my youngest is a girl.
Okay.
The 2 middle boys are actual like boys. And so
Mhm.
that's why I told her she was my sanity, because she knows how to get them under wraps and to get them to calm down. Because some days I'm just like, "Ah, y'all want to wrestle and y'all want to box? Let's go." But we have a good time in this house. Listen, everybody has their own personality. So either everybody is laughing and having a good time, or everybody on punishment and your electronics are on the kitchen counter.
I love it. There's no middle. We either all having fun or you're in trouble.
Listen, I feel like most days that's what it is. So, anyways, I want you've been so amazing at sharing some tips with us and some information. Is there anything else that you can share with us to help us really thrive, harmoniously as the Kingdom Wife Mom Boss, operating in all of these spaces? Also, some thrive tips for the wife that's just struggling to get these things off ground, and how to really just take those first steps to marketplace or writing a book or whatever. Like she can't find the time. You know what I mean? Because that was my thing for me. Like I don't have the time, but I had to take a step somewhere, and I'm grateful for it. Can I just say this right real quick? I'm so grateful for community.
Yeah.
Community is so important as a kingdom wife, my boss.
Mhm.
Like the people you allow to be your mentors, the people that you connect with, the spaces that you're in. I do love the Facebook group that you have. I'm also in a couple of other mentorship programs and communities, and they keep me going. Their testimonies of what they were able to do or how God helped them to overcome, they encourage you. Like those are the things that help as a kingdom wife, mom, boss, for you to keep going, or for you to continue to take those steps.
Yeah.
Right. So is there anything else that you can share with us, either about community or tips that you can give us to help us thrive a little bit better?
I think that is one of the most important things. I always say there are three relationships that you need to have. You need a mentor, someone who is ahead of you. You need an accountability partner, someone who is next to you. And then you also need a mentee or someone who can learn from you. And all three of those areas, I really believe should be functioning almost at the same time. Because if you get caught up only with a mentor, then you don't necessarily have anybody who's where you are to kind of encourage you, to push you through the challenges that they are currently facing themselves, where you don't feel crazy. Your mentor is already ahead, your mentor has already accomplished, your mentor has already done. But when you have an accountability partner, it's like, girl, same, and it's like, let's lock in together and get this done. Let's lock in together and push forward. And I mean, I think about last year with the assigned experience. My mentor was very much so like, Ashlee, these are the steps to take to have a successful event. I've had several successful events. I've generated multi-millions. I've done billion-dollar deals, etc. Well, my accountability partner was like, Ashlee, I got this sponsorship list from one of my connections, and let's have a session where we both go through this sponsorship list, like potential sponsors for our events, because we were both having an event last year. And we spent like 2 hours on that Zoom, highlighting emails, composing emails, looking at each other's emails, giving each other feedback, praying with each other, encouraging each other, getting those sponsorship emails out. And then you have a mentee or someone who you can just kind of like encourage as you are along the way, because that's a part of our responsibility in the kingdom. Don't just focus on what you're doing for yourself, but like everything from your test to the testimony is for the good of the kingdom and to help somebody else. And so you should always have somebody that you are helping in some sort of capacity, whatever that looks like in the season that you're in. That is so important. And then also, do not neglect your time with God and, your obedience to what it is he's telling you to do. Because like if God told you to, let's say, write the book, like you mentioned, he knows that you're a wife. He knows that you're a mom. He knows that you have a 9 to 5 that is very demanding. You have a full-time schedule, all the things on your plate. And yet, he still said, write that book and get it out. He still said, I expect you to launch this podcast. He still said, I need you to show up as a coach, as a strategist, as a graphic designer, as a consultant. He still said, and we have to still obey. I think so many times we have this expectation that it's all supposed to perfectly align and everything's supposed to be seamless. And it's like, no, God knew everything that was on your plate. And the same God who gave you the instruction will also give you the strategy, but you have to go back to him to get the strategy too. We cannot be like so intentional on getting like, God, what do you want me to do? That we don't go back and saying, God, how do you want me to do it? And I think too, like, be willing to invest in yourself. I have made so many investments. I will always invest into my learning, into my leadership, into my ministry, my relationship with God, because honestly, it is the best investment I can make. Like, I am the best investment that I can make. And there's always going to be a return on an investment into me. And so I think that is also something else. Sometimes we feel like we'll just figure it out. Oh, I'll get to it. I'll get to it. When there's somebody who can help you unlock the time that you need to get to it, somebody can simplify the process. It might be, the book that God told you to write, you're supposed to have a ghost writer help you write it. You're supposed to have a publishing company take it off your hands and publish it on your behalf. But you're so focused on what you can do that you're missing out on the people around you or the people who are, available to you, who can get things done for you for his glory. So I think, the community piece, the making sure you have the mentor, maybe like a mentee or like someone who can learn from you, and then also that accountability partner. And then make sure you are investing in yourself frequently, consistently, often. Get into rooms that, are in alignment with who God is, with what God says, that are not compromising, that are not worldly. Get into rooms that put a demand on your assignment. Invest into the coaching programs, invest into the tools, invest into the resources that get you to your next.
Ooh, that was a mouthful, girl. That was a mouthful. First of all, I don't know who that friend is, but baby, keep her for life. Because them
Amen.
friends are hard to come by.
Locked in. We are locked in for sure.
Listen, those friends are hard to come by. I do want to add this one thing with the mentorship. Everybody who I allow to pour into me, like even if it's just for a season, if it's for a day, if it's for however long, God very specifically told me that I needed them in my life. Very
Amen.
specifically. And I think some people go and get these mentors because they sound good or they caught the gimmick and it's not necessarily who God had aligned for them as far as mentorship goes, and they find themselves struggling and in trouble. And so, thank you so much for pouring that out. One more thing, I just want you to tell us what you have coming up this year, how we can get in contact with you, those
Hey,
things.
yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Clemitra. This has been amazing. My most active platform is Facebook. So if you are not already connected with me on Facebook, that is like the place where I'm always showing up multiple times per day, posting content, answering questions, responding to comments. Facebook is the place. As far as what's coming up, we are going to be announcing the enrollment period for the assigned experience. Earlier, I did share that in order to become a member of the assigned, our organization for God's businesswomen, you do have to go through the assigned experience, which is the live 4-day event that happens here in Georgia. And I'm also going to be hosting a virtual event inside of our Facebook group, Christian Women Entrepreneurs Assigned to Millions in the Marketplace. So if that is you, if you know that you have an assignment, it doesn't matter where you are. I think that's important too to kind of note. Some of the women who are a part of the assigned are actually brand new to entrepreneurship. They've never had a client. They don't even have their LLC yet. We're building all of those things with them. And no matter where you are on your journey, if your foundation is not rooted in biblical principles, you absolutely can benefit from being in spaces that put a demand on the kingdom standard for business. So I would love to connect with you. Let me know you heard me on the podcast. Send me a message. I'm very good at responding to DMs as well. And I would, yeah, love to connect.
Everything that she said is all true, girl. Facebook, she responds well. Ashlee is absolutely amazing. Thank you so much, Kingdom Wife Mom Boss, for joining us on this episode and giving us so much good content and wisdom. We truly appreciate you.
Amen. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
All right, Kingdom Wife Mom Bosses, I will catch you guys on the next episode. Until then, take care and operate in harmony.